morning.
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 It's good to be here today. I have been on travel, and so if I look like I'm standing funny, I have a sore back from travel.
You can use the, I don't know, if you want.
Yeah, why don't you use the stool?
Oh no, I'm fine. Thank you for that though. Look at my people trying to take care of me, right? What a great resource I have. So I wanted to start today about giving you a dictionary definition of resource. A source of supply, support, or aid, especially one that can be readily drawn upon when needed. An available means afforded by the mind or one's personal capabilities. Capability in dealing with a situation or in meeting difficulties. With those definitions, I want all the resources, right? I want all the resources. I want to be able to deal with difficult situations. I want to have what I need when I need it. So we have spiritual resources as well as mundane resources. And depending upon how we use these things, they can fall into one category or the other. So I'm going to kind of talk about them interchangeably because, for example, the use of ritual can be a mundane resource or it can be a spiritual resource, right? So it goes back and forth. I was going to present two very separate categories, and while I was preparing, I was like, we just have one list, resources, right? We can make them spiritual resources, or they can be mundane. So I want to share the first one with you. How many of you have ever gone onto, we call it Big Unity's website at unity.org? All right, so a lot of you have. I hope some of you online have as well. There are free publications. You don't even have to pay for shipping. I'm going to share a couple of those with you. This little booklet called The Power of Prayer. I was just talking with our board president, a couple weeks ago, and she referenced it. So she's using that resource. Another one, Release and Renew. This was from Lent. Unity puts out a booklet for Lent every year. They're fabulous. This is a good one. How to stay centered no matter what. And I think this is my most recent one that I got from them. The Spirit of Family, Faith, Inspiration, and Healing. And of course, there is also the Daily Word, which you can subscribe to. That does cost money. But you can also go get the current Daily Word off their website for free. So all of those are some resources that we have to get some spiritual material that we can use in our everyday life, right? Our Daily Word today was from 1953. And I wanted to share that with you because whenever I'm doing anything, planning a talk for Sunday, or trying to work through my own stuff, I use the Daily Word so often. You can search by word. So I searched resource, and a whole bunch of Daily Words came up. And then I read the one that Andrea shared a few moments ago, and I thought, yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So that Daily Word is a fabulous resource as well. I really encourage you to go online and look that up. It's one of those things that if done, if read with intention, while you're quiet, you can really gain some insight. You might hear that still small voice within. You might have an aha. It's powerful stuff. Another list of spiritual resources are our 12 powers, right? That's a whole separate, that's its own thing. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But I got lost in it the night before last and decided we're going to do a class. So after self-care, we're doing a 12-power class because it's good stuff.
Yay.
Yay! So what are some other resources that we have? And if you're online, I invite you to use the chat feature if you want to share some of your ideas. So all of you think about what are some of your spiritual resources? I just shared a whole list of reading materials, so scripture, poetry, reading material. What do you have?
Other people, friends.
Other people, friends, wonderful spiritual resource, right? As we grow and evolve, we learn that we need to maybe hone our relationship circle, right? Who are we going to let in close? Who are we going to share our vulnerabilities with, right? What else do you guys got? What are some of your spiritual resources?
The Bible,
Bible,
the BIBLE, basic information before leaving Earth.
basic information before leaving Earth. Okay. Yeah. I read a lot of poetry, so when I'm sad, I don't want to suck someone else into my sorrow, but I do also want a moment of wallowing. So I will read sad poetry when I'm sad. I get to wallow in my sadness for a few moments, and then I can take a few deep breaths and let it go.
Music.
Music. Thank you, Chris. Music. How many have you have had an emotive response to music? I think we all have at some point, right? Music.
Someone said you, Reverend Sarah.
Me, Reverend Sarah. Aw, thank you.
Chat with a minister.
A chat with that warms my heart. Thank you.
Last night I came here and attended the Healing Sound immersion that Mark Ferguson had for us, and it was awesome. And that type of music where it's completely surrounding you.
Yeah. So for those who didn't hear, she attended a workshop, a sound healing workshop. And you know, let's put all workshops can be resources for us, right? Prayer and meditation, good ones. Participating in our faith community, whether you're joining us online or you're here in person, this can be a spiritual resource for you. What else? Anything else?
Are we missing something?
Well, so Andrea asked, are we missing something? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Being in nature,
Art.
being outdoors.
Being in nature, creating or experiencing art,
Reading the Christian mystics.
reading Christian mystics' work. Do you guys remember when I shared with you my frog story? So I had painted a frog and it was so healing for me. The act of painting that frog was so healing for me. I just really wanted another frog exactly the same. And I got it because I'm prosperous. So our spiritual resources, the ones that really fall into that spiritual resource category and don't fall into the mundane, they're always renewable. Always renewable because they're infinite, right? So the idea that when we are frazzled, overwhelmed, life is becoming too much, finding inner serenity, inner peace is always available to us. Who's the, I Jewish guy, Frankel, is that his name?
Oh,
Who really shared so much about how he stayed centered while he was in a concentration camp. How he kept his spirit intact. How he didn't let his inner self get broken by his outside circumstances. Our spiritual resources are infinite and always available. And I think that if you're going to take anything away from this morning, take that away. Our spiritual resources are infinite and always available. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, life is really getting to us. COVID is just going on way too long. We can't stand it.
so true.
We complain to our friends, right? We complain to our family. But we don't take the steps, the inner steps, to shift where our consciousness is. We get so caught up and so frazzled, and we think, well, if my boss would just do this, if the people would just do that, if they would just stop doing this, if something in my outside world would just change,
Sorry.
who knows what I'm doing? Causing static, that's what I'm doing. So often, that's the mindset we have, and I don't know if it's because we're taught it from the time we're this little or what, but we look to the outside world and we say, if this would change, then I could be peaceful. If this would change, then I could be happy. If this would change, then I could be healthy. And when it comes to creating the life we want to live, when it comes to taking self-responsibility for our life, the first place we need to look is what's happening inside of us. What is happening inside of us? And I'm not telling you that you have to do this all alone. In fact, go online, get them to send you those booklets. Reach out to your friends, your minister, your community. Whatever feeds you and helps you, do that. It's not a solo journey, although our consciousness is a solo exercise. Right? We are here living this life together. I want to be able to lean on you. Even though I'm the minister, I want to be able to lean on you. I want to be a pillar of strength for you to lean on me. And we get to discern. Right? So obviously, as the minister in this faith community, I'm not going to lean on you in the same way as I lean on my mentor. Right? One of the ways that I get support, I come here to do church. I love it. Chris is in the back setting everything up. You know what she does for me? She gets the clock off the wall and puts it on the chair so I don't go over too far. And every single time she does that, I feel loved and supported. Because it's never in my mind, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. And I still go over, but, I'm trying. So as we move through our life, think about your own life as you're going through your own life. What is really hot for you right now? What is the struggle for you right now? What is maybe not going so great right now? What's causing you frustration? Where is there angst in your life right now? And now think of all the outside people and situations that you're blaming for your inner experience. We all do it. You're not failing or a bad person, because we all do that. And part of growing and evolving our spiritual intelligence, it's starting to get aware of those times when we're pointing the finger. I'm mad and it's Andrea's fault because she looks so fabulous in that dress, right? Or I'm feeling abandoned because of that person, right? We have to be aware of where we're projecting blame and where we're abdicating our responsibility for our own life experience. So again, think of your life. Think of who you've pointed your finger at, or what. Sometimes it's a what. Like I point my finger at COVID a lot.
Yeah. It's a thing.
It's a thing. And if it would just stop being a thing, then my life could get back to whatever I'm not experiencing when I'm having those thoughts. I could throw a party in my house if COVID would just knock it off. I could have friends over. I could hug 100 people in one day. Okay, I don't want to do that, but I could if COVID weren't a thing. So now, think about, you have your life situation, you're aware of where you're pointing your finger, and now think of your inner experience. What are you lacking in regards to this life situation? What are you lacking? Maybe it's direction. Maybe you don't know which way to go. Maybe you're paralyzed and can't make a decision. Maybe you're lacking a sense of security. And the unknown is causing you stress and anxiety. Whatever is lacking for you, think about how you've been in your mind, in your consciousness, how you've been wishing the outside world would give you what you want, what you're lacking. So if I'm lacking security because I can't afford my rental space anymore and I don't know where I'm going. If something would just happen, if something would just fall in my lap, or if I could just find the right ad in wherever you find the ad, in Craigslist, or if just this would happen, then I could feel secure. But in reality, we live from the inside out, right? Not the outside in. Our trouble and our struggle comes when we live from the outside in, or when we think that that's what's happening. But what's really happening is we live from the inside out. Everything comes from mind. This booklet could not have been in existence if it were not first in mind. So if I'm lacking security, where do I find it? I need to find it in myself, right? And I need to know that whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. Whatever happens, my community is going to be okay. Worst case scenario, we don't have a place. We have to get out of this place because we can't afford it. They got new tenants coming in. Worst case scenario, we don't have a place. What do you think we would do? Would we just say, well, that's that, we're done? Of course not. We would meet at a park, at someone's house, on Zoom. We would figure it out, right? But what happens is when there's an unknown, especially when there's an unknown, we think we don't have any resources. We think if the outside circumstance would just get in alignment and do what we want it to do, then we could let this anxiety go. There's always going to be something nagging on us. There's always going to be sorrow. There's always going to be sadness. We're always going to have grief. You know, something's going to happen in life. Life is full of ups and downs. And when we focus on our spiritual practice, when we focus on our spiritual resources, when we're not in crisis, we pave the way, right? We pave the way so when crisis does come, we are well versed in our spiritual practice. If I am a musician, how am I going to get good for my performance? I'm going to practice, right? We can't come to church and say, "Oh, Reverend Sarah said we have divine resources, so the next time I'm stressed, I'm going to remember that." I'm telling you, that's when everything goes out of your mind. And you're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do? I can't remember any spiritual thing anyone has ever said to me. I can't remember any good thing I've ever read, because I'm just so caught up in the crazy of my situation." I pray and meditate on a regular basis, and there are times when I'm caught up in the drama of my own life that I can't meditate. So then I go to my next layer of resources. And depending, if it's not the dead of winter or the thick of summer, all I need is some trees, a wooded area, go hiking, and I can find my peace. So thinking again on your life situation and how you've pointed the finger outside of yourself and how your consciousness is about your situation, and you figure out what you're lacking, and then we do what we can. We use our resource. That's when we use our resources to find out, how do I create wholeness in myself? What is it that I'm lacking? How do I get that lack to shift to wholeness? I told you I was on travel. I went to my son's wedding. I got the honor of officiating, and it was so special. It was my firstborn. I love him to death. I would not say publicly he's my favorite, so I wouldn't say that, but I tell all my kids they're my favorite. But as I was preparing, I had so much anxiety because I wanted this to go so well. I was so invested and attached to a good outcome. I was so invested in that. And my daughter-in-law, of course, her wedding's coming up in a few days. She's getting really, really stressed. And I told her, you know what? In every wedding, something goes wrong. In every wedding, there's some chaos. The cake might get knocked over. The DJ might not show up. It could be really a big mistake. Every wedding has mistakes. And what you need to do is keep in mind, this is going to make a great wedding story. Great wedding story. And your job, the only job you have, is to show up and enjoy yourself. Show up, have a great time, celebrate the commitment you're making, no matter what goes wrong. So we were video chatting, so we hang up the phone, and I was like, boy, that's good. I should listen to that. That was good advice, actually. So I said to myself, you know what? I've seen the videos on YouTube. Right. Ministers are always making mistakes, saying the wrong name, or saying a very inappropriate word because they got tongue-tied or something. And you know, you've all heard me. I can accidentally drop a bomb pretty easily. And so I told myself, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to show up, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to enjoy myself. This is my oldest son's wedding. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience, and my job is to show up, do the best I can. And of course, it went great. A lot of things went wrong. A lot of things went wrong, but at least not on my part. Yeah, it was fine. And it was lovely, even with all the things that went wrong. There were ants. It was crazy. So I had to call upon my spiritual resources, right? So I was full of angst, and what I needed to do was to let go of my attachment to the perfect outcome. Because that's really what I had a lot of anxiety about. I wanted to do a perfect job. And let's face it, when you go to a wedding, what's the one thing you don't remember? What the minister said.
Yeah.
It's the one thing you don't remember, right?
Honestly.
So there's always something for us to let go of. For me, it was the attachment to the perfect outcome. There's always something for us to let go of, and there's always something for us to embrace. And what I needed to embrace there was just the fact that this is a wonderful experience, and I'm there to do the best that I can and have fun. That's what I was embracing. That doing my best is going to be great, even if I make a mistake, and I'm going to have a fun time doing it, even if I make a mistake. As I was untying the rings from the little ring bearer cushion, I almost dropped an F-bomb because I could not get those knots undone. I'm like, who the heck tied this? I know you don't want the little child to swing them off and lose them in the grass, but boy, I couldn't get those open, and so I started laughing. So I'm bending over and I'm trying to untie these ties, and there's two of them, one for each ring, and I can't decipher what string is for what ring, and if I'm pulling on the wrong string. And so I started laughing, and I was like, okay, even if I go into a laughing hysterical fit, that'll make for a good story. And as soon as I let go of my worry about it, I was able to just stop laughing, because it was nervous laughter. So let's go to meditation and really bring a real situation, something that's really happening in your life. Bring that to mind. And how have you been pointing your finger outside of yourself? Just bring that to mind. And now think about what has been lacking for you. What feeling, what emotion, what has been lacking in regards to this situation? And let's focus on the heart space. Let's breathe into our heart space. Acknowledge, embrace that indwelling Christ presence point of your beingness that is connected to all that is. Just focus there. And hold in your mind in oneness with the source of my being. My every spiritual resource is renewed in me. In oneness with the source of my being, my every spiritual resource is renewed in me. Acknowledge that you have full access. I'm going to say that affirmation again. I invite you to say it in your mind. Feel it in your heart. In oneness with the source of my being, my every spiritual resource is renewed in me. I have direct access. Holding those truths in your heart, knowing that that still small voice is divine wisdom. Let's listen for it. Let's listen to see what that still small voice has to say about our situation for a few moments in silence. In oneness with the source of my being, my every spiritual resource is renewed within me. I have direct access. And so it is. Amen. So there is an exercise that I do do periodically that I invite you to try, and that is to make a list of your resources. And I'm not talking money, although it could be I have the money to go on a retreat, or I have the money to hire a therapist, or I have the money to, take advantage of some spiritual resource. But unless we get conscious and intentional about what we're doing, when we are in crisis, we don't know, we don't remember, and we feel as if we have no access. So while you're thinking about it, I invite you to make a list of your resources. And sometimes just writing them by hand makes you remember it. I have them on Post-it notes in my office at home. So I invite you to do something similar. Yeah.
Would you please repeat that affirmation in order to write it down?
Sure. The affirmation was in oneness with the source of my being. My every spiritual resource is renewed within me. I have direct